Welcome to Leading Through with Billy Island. Leading through what? Leading through adversity, leading through victories, leading through trying times, leading through so many issues in life. I want to give you some principles, some gold nuggets that would help us lead through. My name is Billy Island, and I get the privilege and honor to actually host this podcast. And I really would love for you to rate, review, comment, share with other people. It would mean the world to me. Today, at the time of us recording, we are in Birmingham, Alabama. Our team actually went to one of the most powerful Christian leadership conferences in the world, Grow Leader, hosted by Church of the Highlands, lead pastor Chris Hodges. Shout out to them for depositing in us. But right now, we're going to talk about a few things. I think we have some questions. And as I answer those questions, I really pray and hope that they bless you, that they deposit into your leadership container, and that you're able to utilize them to impact not only your personal life, your marriage, your family, and anyone you come in contact with. So we're going to get right into the questions now, and I'm going to answer the best of my abilities.
Okay. So typically in an organization, having less leaders is promoted. Why do you feel that having more leaders is more efficient?
Well, less is more, so I do like that concept. That is an amazing concept, because if you have overhead, if you can actually have less on payroll, if the leader is on payroll, it would be more effective, so you can utilize your resources to actually help out more, and you can give more, you can bless more, your benevolence is higher. So I do understand how less is more. Less people in the room, it's easier to actually make decisions, because when you got strong-willed leaders, it's tough when you have so many leaders in the room that's adding their value or their perspective, their view or their opinion. So less is more in that capacity. But I think having more leaders than you ever need is a great, great asset to any organization, to any establishment. I think when you have more leaders than you will ever need, you always have a next up concept. You can do more. Why? Because when one leader is sent off to do another startup business, or in my arena, to start a church, you have a next up mentality. Because there's so many leaders, it's not like you're losing. When someone is sent out, you're able to actually plug and play with the next leader, because there's so many leaders around. And with so many leaders around, you can get more done, obviously, that way as well. Because the leadership is so plentiful, the impact is so powerful. And that is one of my beliefs. Now, I've led on both spectrums, where there was less leaders and you had to work with what you had. And that brings a lot of innovation, ingenuity. You have to get very creative when you have less. But when you have more, oh, how refreshing that is. It's like standing under a waterfall and just allowing it to be refreshed by the water, because you know that leaders are going to get so much done in the organization. So that's a great, great question. And I truly believe that both I've experienced, and more leaders than you ever need. I think that's where I would like to lean towards, though. I would like to have more leaders than I ever need, so I can make a greater impact. So great, great question. Yeah.
Great. Another question is, what are some qualities you look for in a leader?
Oh, that's so good. It's so good. Some of the qualities that I look for in a leader is centeredness, being centered in their character, being consistent, having a character that they show up day in and day out, they deliver day in and day out, no excuses. They have that integrity integrity in the sense of being punctual, meaning they have integrity with the clock, with time. You know, they know you can have integrity with time. If I say I'm going to be there at 6, I'm probably there at more like 5:45. Why? Because I have integrity with the clock. I have integrity with my life, because I'm centered. You know, you can see me day in and day out. I'm going to deliver day in and day out. And another thing, I know you asked for one, but a constant student mindset, being a student, that, you know, you're constantly learning, being a learner. You know, you never outgrow being a learner. You never get to a place where you're not learning. I was with a coach of mine, actually my pastor, and I came with, I don't know, about 9 questions in my notes in my phone. So I would glance down at my phone and ask a question. And it took forever to get through that meeting. I thank God for that investment he gave me. But every question I asked him, he flipped it and became a student and asked me like 7 to 9 questions. Like, he asked me question after question to get clarity. And, you know, he was very tactful and he was very loving with his question, but he was a student. Even though I came to learn from him, he made sure that he had clarity and that he learned as much as he needed to know in order to best serve me. And that really, really blessed me. And I really looked at him from a different lens and a different glance. And I had a different view of him because of his student mentality. So there's 2 things. I gave 2. One, centeredness, being centered, delivering day in and day out, having character, just being the type of person that shows up. Not only do you show up, but also you show up and you're a student. You're a person that actually says, I have come here to learn. That's my goal. I am here to learn. Leaders are learners. And so as these questions are coming through, I'd love for you to comment in the comment section so you can, you know, get as much as you can out of this, and you can ask questions as well, and we'll get back to you, our team. I love questions, and I think that question was amazing.
As a leader, how do you gain commitment from your team?
I think buy-in is so good. So I thank you for that question, because when you have buy-in or commitment, you know, I think that, you know, you get more done as a unit. You know, when people are just mechanically, you know, existing on the team, they're not really bought in, they're not committed, they're physically there, but their heart's not there. It's very tough to actually get things done from a sincere and genuine space. For me, I think keeping the why we do what we do, why we're here, why we exist, why we want to accomplish this task, why we're together as a team, why we are on this journey, why we are on this mission. As long as we can keep the why before us. Simon Sinek, he's an author and a writer, and he wrote a book called Start With the Why. I read that book and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. At this leadership conference here, actually the lead pastor, Chris Hodges of Church of the Highlands, he started with the why. This is why we exist. And as I talked to his team, and they kept on saying they have a high buy-in. Oh my God, their staff, their retention is like crazy. And one of the things that I noticed is everyone knew why they were there, why they existed, why they were serving, why they had their role as a staff member. And so I think that as we keep a why there, the commitment and the retention goes up, because everyone understands their purpose. Everyone understands, you know, the importance of them being there. There's just not, they're not just following you as the leader just to be following you. No, we are actually going to a destination, and we're actually impacting the world, and it's meaningful. And everyone wants to be a part of something that's meaningful. So if you always keep before them, I don't care if it's the GZ, I don't care if it's millennials, if you keep before them, we're here to help such and such. We're here, we exist to help the homeless. We exist to bring injustice down to a minimum in the United States. We exist so we can help those who are lost to be actually saved. We exist. And as long as you look at any great organization, Walmart, guy started in Arkansas. His name was Sam Walton. What did he do? He had a great vision statement. If you look at Amazon, they have that that arrow, and it's from A, that arrow, and it points to Z, meaning from A to Z. That's our mission. We're here to have everything you want from A to Z, and that's their goal. And they keep that before their employees. I'm pretty sure the leader does, and so that's one of the things that I think that gets people to buy in, to have great commitment. Retention is at a high level is when you know why you actually are doing what you're doing. Leaders, us as leaders, whether you're leading your family, whether you're leading your marriage, whether you're leading, a startup business, whether you're leading a church, keeping the why before the people that are following is so important. Let me give you an example. As a father or a mother of your children, this is our household. We may live in this community, but we're not of this community if you're living in a poverty-stricken community. You're always putting the why. That's why we don't get involved in that. That's why you're not staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning or coming through the doors at 2 o'clock in the morning, because we exist for this purpose. This is what my parenting is running through that filter. This is why, because we're going somewhere, because God has a plan for you, because you're a very special child. Keeping that why before them. What about in your marriage? In your marriage, this is why we don't do a particular thing. We don't go in this area. This is why we don't, spend our money this way, because we're givers. We like to help other people out. This is why we are prudent. We save our money, because we want to help people when they're in need. This is why our startup business is taking place. Why? Because we exist for X, Y, and Z. And so as long as we keep the why before people, I think the commitment is pretty high. Pretty high. Great questions. I love it. Hopefully you guys are engaging. Hopefully you guys understand that this is some good stuff, and you want to share this, you want to rate it, you want to review. It means the world to me as you do that. Make comments as well. Yeah.
So, as a leader, could you explain how you have overcome like failed adventures or failures, period, and kept going because the ultimate goal and vision that you have before you?
Wow. I think in the question is the solution. I think because I know what God has ahead of me, that was enough to stabilize me through failures. Those failures were something that was building up leadership equity. What I mean by leadership equity, now I have the ability to speak up on that situation. I can't speak up on it. I can from an informational standpoint, but if I want to impart life, if I want to speak from a real life scenario that took place in me to impact people, I don't think that you have to go through something just to help someone, but I think that it's that much more impactful. I think it's that much more substance on your words. So while I was failing often, not every time, because there was times I would fail and I would get discouraged and I would question whether this is for me. Am I able to do this? Am I able to accomplish this? Go, God, did you make a mistake, or did I make a mistake? And did I think you wanted me to lead, but you really didn't? So there were seasons where I did think like that, and I thank God for the Holy Spirit, because although this is a leadership podcast, I'm a firm believer in a Christian, and so God would really help me, and He would use people. Don't ever doubt that God, He's not limited to just speaking to you only. He'll speak through other people, and he used people to help me, look at the why, be reminded of why I exist, the purpose of going through what I needed to go through. And so a lot of times internally I could say, you know what, man, this is going to benefit me futuristically. Other times I would be overthinking, overanalytical, analyzing, if this is for me, can I get this accomplished? Man, I failed. How can I be a leader if I failed? And over time, I began to start understanding that failure and success, is hard to separate those if you really, really just, understand that God works all things together. Everything, the good and the bad and the ugly, it all is working together for your own good and for somebody else's good as well. Think about this: as Jesus Christ died on the cross, here you go, the preacher comes out of me, right? Jesus Christ died on the cross. That was the most horrific thing going on. I'm pretty sure at that time, 12 disciples was like probably losing their mind. Well, 11 of them, of course, because Judas had sold him out, and his mom was going crazy. People were going crazy. Man, this guy actually had been healing people, had been doing so many great things, and now he's dead. And I'm sure as people were looking at that horrific, horrible, hideous situation that was going on, I'm sure they were like, man, this sucks. But think about it, it was all for the gain and the glory and the gratification of God. It was for the gaining of new life for people like you and I, or people that have accepted the Lord. So yeah, it may have looked bad at the time. And so when I evaluate my failures, when I evaluate my bad experience, when I evaluate my shortcomings, if I evaluate it through the cross, if I look at it through the lens of Jesus, I look at it for what it really is, I begin to understand that this too shall pass. And I don't know who it's for, but I'm probably going through this for somebody 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 2 weeks from now. And I'm going to use that experience to help somebody understand that God has not forgotten them, that God has not left them alone, and this failure is not your destination, it's just your transition. See, the Bible says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, through, I mean, I'm just going through this. I'm not staying here. I'm just going through this valley. And so that's what has helped me in leadership when I fail, make horrible decisions. And I'm probably one of the hardest people on myself. I think of, how I can be better. And so, that's many times where I, get into a mode where I'm like, man, I could have done that better. But as a learner, because leaders are learners, I understand that even this failure was a part of the journey that God had for me. So, yeah. So hopefully that helps somebody out there on their leadership journey. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for a young leader who is going through difficulties right now, what would you say to them now to encourage them that it gets better for them?
Start journaling. I have a 5-year journal. I've been journaling for, say, about 4 years. And so as I journal, I look at days that was 2 years ago on the same date. I see that there was some progress. I may read through it and I'm like, wow, I was depressed then. And you can remember what you were going through. Wow. Man, I remember 2020 when the pandemic hit in March. Oh my gosh, we were going crazy. My mind was in a frenzy. Then you'll see 2023 in March, you're like, oh, okay. Dang, I've graduated a little bit in that area. Or you see what you still need to work on. So if you kind of like tally, your progress, because then you will see that, okay, whatever I'm going through right now, it's not final. I'm sure I'll graduate and transition through that. If you have hard times, don't worry. Those hard times, they're to build you. They're not to destroy you. They're not a burden. They're actually a blessing. It doesn't look like it. Doesn't feel like it right now. You may not even understand why you're going through it. Sometimes I don't know why I'm going through what I'm going through, hard time, but it builds up leadership equity. It deposits into your account, and you don't know it. I'm serious. You don't know it until later. You need a particular strength, or you need certain wisdom, and you have it because of that hard time. So if you're going through a leadership challenge, just get around some people that can kind of like coach you, that been, maybe 5 steps, 10 steps ahead of you. Get around people that, they understand, man, that's just a part of the journey. And you'll be looking like, what? I mean, you're not going through this though. But in reality, it's just part of the journey. And what I would say is get around good people that can actually speak into your life. Have multiple people leading you. Don't just have one person leading you. You need a great a group of friends. I mean, I'm talking about people that you can pull out and talk to about anything, not even your leadership journey. You need people that mentor you about leadership. That's one. Then have friends that you pull out and you don't even talk about leadership. And I'm speaking prophetic in my life because I rarely have that. But you know what I'm saying? If you can have something like that, I know that it's healthy. You can do something. Get a hobby. Do something that has nothing to do with your leadership. Have nothing to do with leading your organization, leading your family, leading, your department. It has nothing to do with that. You're just out there fishing. You're just out there playing the video game. You're just out there doing whatever, and it just disengages you, and then you come back to whatever you're leading with fresh eyes. For me, it's traveling with my wife. For me, that's my thing. I like to travel with my wife, Elena, and we go somewhere, and I come back with fresh eyes. I come back, I disengage from what I was leading, and then I'm still leading it while I'm gone, because that's a part of the leadership too, is rest. Just having rest, and then coming back and being more effective. But whatever you're going through, it's not final. It's not over. It's a part of the journey that's building you and training you. I hope I answered that question properly, because I kind of feel like I may have gotten off there, but if hopefully it helps someone. Yeah.
So as we close up, the last question is, if you could give 3 disciplines that you have practiced as a leader that has helped you get to where you're at now, what would those 3 disciplines be?
Oh my God, that is so good. 3. I think the first thing would be being consistent. Gosh, that's so good. That's so good. Being consistent. And consistency is tough sometimes, because when you're being consistent, you're doing something, and you have to fight through it being a routine and mundane. You have to fight, because consistency sometimes can be like, man, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Well, as long as you do it with passion, as long as you make sure that you're doing it with your heart, consistency will be your best friend. Oh my God, which takes a discipline. It takes a discipline. So discipline and consistency. And another thing is being, and I think this falls in the same line, but is executing. Being an executor. If you said you're gonna do something, do it. If I say I'm gonna do something, let me make sure I do that. I'm gonna accomplish that. So discipline, which falls under consistency, being an executor, and having integrity. And I think they all fall in the same line, but you can be disciplined and not have integrity. You can be disciplined and have not, and I think discipline and consistency falls into the same thing, But you can be an executor but not really be consistent, And so I think that being consistent, which in this discipline, that's one, and then being an executor, meaning, when people know they can depend on you and you're gonna execute and you're gonna do exactly what you said you were gonna do, and you do that consistently, it builds up something called integrity. You see what I'm saying? Because people know what they can rely on. When they see you, they know. They know what they're going to get from you. And that is one of the most powerful things that a leader, I think, can do. That's what have helped me, is say, you know what? I may not have much. I tell people when I disciple them or train them or train up leaders, I said, man, you probably won't see nothing super special about me, man. I'm not going to just drop these great one-liners that's just going to blow your mind. I'm just not going to say something. I'm probably not even the best communicator in the world. But one of the things that, if you get close to me, I'm going to do the same thing pretty much every day. Every day. I'm just going to be that same person every day. Not that I'm not being transformed within, but I'm going to keep on being consistent. I'm going to deliver day in and day out. You can expect me to be there when I said I was going to be there. You can expect me to be consistent day in and day out. You can expect that. What happens is it's a surprise if I'm not. After you build that up, you're like, whoa, what's going on with Billy? You know something's wrong, because if I'm not being consistent, if I'm not being consistent, that means, if I stop executing, like, whoa, we asked him about that and he never got that done. No, I think that when you are consistent and you execute, it builds integrity around your name. And one of the things that I want to do before I go is leave a legacy of being consistent, being an executor, accomplishing things, and having integrity. At the end of the day, I'll be fine with that. I'll be okay if I die. And people know me for those 3 things. So that's one of the things that have helped me, as a young leader. And, I think if you keep those 3 things, you can keep that forever, 20 years. As long as somebody say, okay, he's consistent, okay, she's consistent, they're going to deliver. They're going to execute. They're going to have integrity. And that's what I want you to do. Lead through in each and every moment of your life, because those three things can take you a long way. I hope these questions help you. God bless you, and make sure you share this with other people.